The Kingdom Within. Introduction. If you only knew how close you are to the very thing you've been searching for your entire life, you would stop running, you would stop reaching, and instead, you would begin to remember. Welcome to the Middle Book, the channel where the noise falls away, the soul finally speaks, and long-lost truths rise like dawn. You don't need to climb mountains to reach the divine. You don't need sacred chants or secret rituals to be worthy. And you certainly don't need to chase what was already placed inside you before your first breath, before your first thought, before the world ever touched you. You've always had it. Now, you get to remember, because the kingdom of God, it is not up in the sky, it's not in a temple, it's not in a future life. The kingdom of God is here, now, and more importantly, it's within you. These were not metaphors. These were not poetic riddles. They were the most powerful, direct, revolutionary words ever spoken on this earth. When Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is within you," he wasn't delivering comfort. He was delivering the truth, a law. The kind of truth that doesn't just inspire you, it awakens you. This is not a book of beliefs. It's not another doctrine for your mind to collect. This is a manual for remembering who you already are. Because your life, every rise, every fall, every question and frustration, has been shaped not by fate, not by chance, but by a deeper law. Your outer world is a projection of your inner world. And until you understand that, until you realize that you are the projector and not the screen, you'll keep trying to fix shadows while the real light source remains untouched. This journey is about remembering the forgotten, not new information, old wisdom, buried deep in your soul. The words you're about to hear aren't theories, they are keys. 15 spiritual keys that open doors, not outside of you, but inside. Each key is a law, a path, a revelation. Each one has the power to awaken a piece of you that has been asleep. Not because you failed, but because this world taught you to forget. But something in you has always known. And that's why you're here. No word of truth arrives too early. No key is ever offered by accident. You didn't find this message. It found you. And now all that remains, Guy, is to turn the handle. Because no matter how long the door has been closed, no matter how thick the doubt, no matter how far you think you've wandered, the kingdom is still here. And it has always been waiting. Inside of you. Now, let us begin. Chapter 1. Change your thoughts, change your world. Everything you see in your life right now, every situation, every struggle, every blessing, is a mirror, not of what the world has done to you, but of what you have accepted, believed, and repeated in your own mind. This truth is so simple, so powerful, that most people overlook it in their entire lives. Your thoughts are the seeds. Your life is the harvest. There is no outside cause. There is no random luck. There is only consciousness, constantly creating itself in form. Jesus said it clearly. By their fruits you shall know them. He wasn't just talking about actions. He was revealing that thoughts come first and reality follows. If you want to change your life, you must first change your mind. Not one day, not eventually, but now. Because what you think repeatedly becomes the blueprint of your world. If your body is ill, it is not divine punishment. It is the hardened shape of fear, stress, or unconscious inner conflict. If your life feels scarce, it is not because the universe is limited. It is because your consciousness hasn't yet opened fully to the truth of divine provision. And if your relationships feel chaotic, unbalanced, painful, look not at others first, but within, into the unhealed corners of your own mind. This is the first key. You are not reacting to life. You are generating it. Even your silence speaks. Even your unconscious beliefs are prayers. You might not know it yet, but you are always creating. And creation begins in thought. But not just any thought, persistent thought. Focused thought. Thought wrapped in belief. That's what Jesus meant when he said, "Let it be done unto you according to your faith." Not your effort, not your education, not your social status. Your faith, which is simply another word for focused belief. What you think with feeling, you eventually experience. What you imagine with certainty becomes your world. This is not a suggestion. This is the law, as exact as gravity, as unfailing as the sunrise. So if you truly want to begin this journey to wholeness, don't wait for your life to change before you change your thoughts. You must go first. The outer world responds to the inner one. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked. But no one taught you how to think. They told you thoughts just happen, that they come and go like clouds. The fact is, though, that you have the same power to pick your thinking as you do your wardrobe. Peace is an alternative to anxiety. Plenty as opposed to scarcity. Truth rather than fear. And every time you make a new decision, you create a bridge that leads back to harmony and the kingdom. Because you cannot live in peace and think hate. You cannot anticipate success while thinking of poverty. You cannot walk in fullness and think of illness. Jesus was precise when he said, "No one puts new wine into old wineskins." In other words, you can't build a new life with old thoughts. Each thought you repeat is a silent decree. Each belief you hold is a door, either open to the kingdom or shut. That's why positive affirmations alone won't save you. Words without belief are like seeds thrown on concrete. They don't grow. It's not about speaking lightly. It's about thinking in the light until it becomes who you are. So, how do you change your thoughts? Not by resisting the old, but by replacing it with truth. Don't fight fear. Affirm divine presence. Don't curse your lack. Visualize the river of provision flowing to you. Don't battle illness. Declare, again and again, "The life of God flows through every cell of my body." You must do this before you pray, before you ask, before you decree, because without transformed thought, even the most spiritual words are hollow. God doesn't respond to empty speech. God responds to vibration, to alignment. And alignment begins in thought. Jesus didn't multiply the loaves by thinking lack. He thought of abundance. He didn't heal by focusing on the disease. He saw perfection and spoke from it. He didn't walk on water by fearing the storm. He walked with dominion, because every miracle he performed was first a thought, a clear, unwavering vision in perfect harmony with the divine. And he told us clearly, "The things I do, you shall do also." Not as a metaphor, but as a law. But that law is unlocked by one thing, this first key. Change your thought, and your world must change. Not because you wish it, not because you force it, but because that is how reality works. Thought becomes form, belief becomes experience, and spirit, when allowed, becomes flesh. So begin now, not later, not when you feel ready. Now, silently, courageously, within. Ask yourself, what am I thinking right now? Is it light or shadow? Is it truth or illusion? Is it God, or is it fear? And if it is not rooted in love, don't judge it. Don't resist it. Just let it go. And choose again. Because every new thought is a step, and every step builds the path back to the kingdom. This is the first key, the master key, because no healing, no transformation, no freedom can happen without it. Change your thoughts, and you will change your world, not by force, but by divine law. And the moment you live this truth, you become free. Chapter 2. The kingdom of God is within you. There is one truth, one single revelation, that if truly grasped, could dissolve all suffering, all confusion, all fear, in an instant. The kingdom of God is not far away. It is not beyond the clouds, nor locked in ancient scriptures, nor in the hands of spiritual authorities. The kingdom of God is within you, here, now, waiting to be remembered. This isn't comfort, it's revolution. It's the end of the great illusion that salvation lies somewhere outside of your being. For centuries, humanity has been conditioned to chase peace in possessions, to seek love in approval, to beg the skies for health, abundance, and clarity. But the Master came to tear down that illusion. With one phrase, "The kingdom of God is within you," he dismantled centuries of separation. He didn't offer a path to escape the world. He offered a way to transform it from the inside out. The kingdom is not a destination. It is a vibration, a state of alignment, a remembrance of your origin and your eternal nature. And you, dear soul, You were never meant to earn it. You were never meant to beg for it. You were simply meant to open your eyes and recognize it. All the love, all the guidance, all the healing, all the power you've been searching for, they are already alive in the sacred center of your being, like a treasure buried beneath your own feet, like a flame waiting behind the veil of your forgetting. And here is the great tragedy. Most people spend their entire lives searching everywhere but within. They follow gurus, they study rituals, they chase signs, they travel across oceans, only to find that the light they were seeking was waiting behind their own eyes. You cannot find outside what you have denied within. The kingdom is not a myth. It is not a metaphor. It is the inner sanctuary where your soul meets God in silence and knowing. And that sanctuary is not hidden in the stars. It is etched into your very consciousness. Jesus did not come to offer exclusivity. He came to awaken identity, not to say worship me, but to show you what is already true about you, that you are not a wanderer, you are not a beggar, you are not separated from God. You are the living doorway to the divine, and the key has always been in your possession. But how do you access this kingdom? Not through effort, not through sacrifice, but through awareness. The kingdom is not built, it is revealed. It is uncovered when you stop searching, when you close your eyes, when you drop beneath the noise of your mind, and listen for the stillness that never left you. It is felt when you choose love instead of judgment, when you choose peace instead of panic, when you choose truth instead of fear. Because every time you do, you align, and the door opens wider. The outer world is a projection of this kingdom, and when you remember it within, you begin to see it reflected in the faces of others, in the moments of grace, in the flow of life. But if you ignore it, you can cross continents, switch careers, change lovers, chase pleasures, and still feel empty, because you were never missing anything. You simply forgot to look within. Religion may have placed God on a throne in the sky, a distant judge watching from above. But Jesus spoke differently. He said, "The Father and I are one." Not someday, not symbolically, right here, right now. That same unity he embodied is yours to remember. You don't need permission. You don't need a certificate. You only need to turn inward and declare, "I and the Father are one." Say it not as poetry, but as law. Say it not because you feel worthy, but because it's already true. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are not waiting to become divine. You are divine, disguised in form. And the moment you remember this, the veil begins to fall away. So stop running, stop searching, stop begging. Be still, look within, and recognize the kingdom that never left. This is the second key, and it does not open a door. It reveals that you were already on the other side. Only your forgetting made you feel distant. Only your distraction made you feel separate. But now you remember. The kingdom is not out there. It is in your breath. It is in your being. It is in the sacred I am that never leaves you. And when you live from this space, nothing outside of you has power over you. The world may spin, storms may come, but within you is a stillness, a sanctuary, that no man, no fear, no circumstance can shake. The kingdom is within you, not tomorrow, not when you're perfect, but now. So stop asking where to go. You are already home. Chapter 3. The Mental Laws in the Teachings of Jesus. Jesus was not just a teacher of love, he was a master of law, not civil law, not religious law, but spiritual law, mental law, the kind that governs all of creation, whether you believe in it or not. He didn't come to offer advice, he came to reveal how the universe actually works. When he spoke, he didn't speculate, he declared. Because he understood the invisible architecture behind every miracle, every healing, every act of power. He didn't plead with God to act. He aligned his thoughts with divine law, and creation responded with exactness. According to your faith, be it unto you. What you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. These were not spiritual slogans, they were laws, spiritual blueprints, explaining how the mind creates, sustains, and projects reality. Everything in your life has been shaped by one thing: the activity of your mind, not just your conscious thought, but your deepest convictions, your unconscious assumptions, the story you repeat beneath your breath. That story becomes a form. Thought is a seed. Life is soil. Experience is the harvest. This is not philosophy. This is the law of mental cause and effect, and whether you know it or not, this law has always been operating in your life. You're not being punished. You're not being tested. You're manifesting exactly what's been planted in the fields of your mind. Jesus understood this perfectly. That's why when he said, "Do not judge, lest you be judged," he wasn't giving moral advice. He was stating the law of mental return. What you project comes back. What you condemn, you keep. What you judge, you bind to your consciousness. And when he said, "To him who has, more shall be given," he wasn't playing favorites. He was revealing a magnetic law of consciousness. Those who think in terms of abundance attract more of it. Those who think in lack lose even what they have. This is how creation works. This is how your life is being shaped, right now, moment by moment. Your mind is not just a mirror. It is a mold, and whatever you pour into it, belief, fear, vision, truth, will solidify into form. Your mind is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is the channel between spirit and matter. It is the womb where ideas take on flesh, and this is why Jesus spoke with such clarity. He knew that the mind is obedient. It doesn't judge, it doesn't argue, it simply reflects back what it's been given. Like a mirror, like a seedbed, like a spiritual photocopier, printing your inner world onto the canvas of life. So what are you printing? Are your thoughts filled with fear or faith, with a lack or abundance, with guilt or grace? Because the law makes no exceptions. It responds to your predominant belief, not your momentary wish. You cannot plant weeds and harvest roses. You cannot think of limitation and experience liberation. This is the third key of the kingdom. Understand that your mind is the author of your experience, and the story it writes becomes your reality. But this is not a punishment, it's a doorway. Because the moment you take ownership of your thought, you take command of your life. Jesus demonstrated this again and again. He didn't hesitate, he didn't doubt. When he said, "Rise and walk," there was no fear, no second-guessing, no backup plan. He saw the healing before it appeared. He declared the outcome before the evidence. He thought from divine order, and reality obeyed. And he made it clear, "What I do, you shall do also, if you believe." Because the Christ consciousness is not reserved for one. It is available to all to the degree that we align with the laws that govern it. You don't need magic. You don't need permission. You need alignment. Think in harmony with truth. Speak in harmony with truth. Act in harmony with truth. And the law will respond, just as it did for him, just as it can for you. This is not a mystery. This is not superstition. This is the law. This is the third key. And this is your power, hidden in plain sight. So use it. Choose your thoughts like sacred instruments. Craft your inner vision like a sculptor before the marble. And know, the outer will conform to the shape of the inner. Because when your mind becomes one with the divine pattern, life cannot help but reflect the kingdom. Chapter 4. Scientific Prayer and the Power of the Word. Prayer has been misunderstood for generations. We've been taught to beg, to plead, to repeat words with desperation, as if God were far away, as if we had to earn what was already given. But prayer, true prayer, is not about getting God's attention. It's about tuning into a frequency where God has always been speaking. Real prayer is not a cry for help. It is a declaration of remembrance. It is not a request. It is alignment. Jesus didn't teach prayer as pleading. He didn't teach long rituals or mechanical phrases. He taught prayer as a scientific process, a law, a mechanism of creation. And when you understand how this works, you stop praying from fear and start praying from power. When he stood before 5 loaves and 2 fish and said, "Father, I thank you for hearing me," he didn't ask for more. He gave thanks for what already existed, even when it hadn't yet manifested in form. That is scientific prayer, To give thanks for what the soul already knows is true, even if the senses see only lack. Because the moment you align with the truth in consciousness, the outer form must follow. Prayer is not about convincing God to act. Prayer is about convincing your own mind to remember what is already real in spirit. You are not praying for something to happen. You are praying because it already has. And your prayer is the act of stepping into it now. When you pray, believe that you have received it, and it shall be yours. This is not a poetic statement. It's a mechanical instruction, a vibrational code. Your belief, your inner conviction, activates the seed of form. And once the seed is planted, the harvest becomes inevitable. But here's where most people go wrong. They pray with their words, but cancel it with their thoughts. They declare healing, but fear illness. They affirm abundance, but dwell on lack. This contradiction splits the energy, and the law responds not with punishment, but with confusion, because the law of prayer responds not to what you say out loud, but to what you mean when you say it. Your words are the vehicle. Your belief is the engine. Without belief, the vehicle doesn't move. That's why Jesus said, "Your words shall justify you or condemn you." He wasn't referring to judgment. He was referring to spiritual causation. Your words are not passive. They are creators, and every time you speak, especially with feeling, you are giving form to formless energy. So be careful what you declare. Every time you say, "I can't," "This won't work," nothing ever changes. You are not just speaking in frustration. You are issuing a decree to the universe. You are stamping your reality with limitation. And the law is always listening, not to your intentions, but to your vibration, your consistency, your spiritual authority. Now imagine what happens when you reverse that pattern. When you say, "I am whole, I am provided for, I am guided," and you mean it. And you say it again and again until your soul begins to believe it. Now you're not praying from absence, you're praying from oneness. You're not asking for the door to be opened, you're walking through it. This is not a ritual. This is not blind hope. This is spiritual science. This is the word becoming flesh. And the more you practice it, the stronger your inner atmosphere becomes, the clearer your transmission, the louder your faith. And here is another truth. You are always praying, even when you're not on your knees, even when you don't think of it as prayer. Every thought you repeat, every word you speak, especially when it's charged with emotion, it is a form of prayer. So when you say things like, "This will never work out," "This pain is killing me," "I'll always be stuck," you're not just expressing emotion, you're setting spiritual law in motion, whether you realize it or not. Prayer doesn't begin when your eyes close. It begins when your intention awakens. It begins when your language becomes sacred again. Your words matter, not because they're magic, but because they are the vessels of the creative spirit within you. So choose your words as you would sacred instruments. Speak not to describe what is, but to declare what is becoming. Speak as Jesus did. He didn't say, "God, please fix this." He said, "Lazarus, come forth. Be healed. Peace, be still." He used words as tools backed by unwavering belief to mold reality into divine order. And he never said, "I am the only one who can do this." He said, "The works I do, you shall do also, and greater." But only if you learn to use the same keys. Only if you learn to speak from the kingdom, not to it. So stop begging. Stop pleading. Start declaring. Affirm your wholeness. Thank God in advance. Bless your life into alignment. Because when you speak as one who knows, your words become bridges between heaven and earth. This is the power of scientific prayer. This is the fourth key. It does not ask, it aligns. It does not wait, it declares. And when you speak from truth, when your words are shaped by love and held in faith, they do not return void. They become a form. They become healing. They become peaceful. They become your world. Chapter 5. Faith as the creative force. There is a power within you, a power that shapes worlds, bends realities, and parts the seas of impossibility. This power is called faith, but faith is not what most believe it to be. It is not passive. It is not blind. It is not wishful thinking. True faith is an active force, a creative dynamic energy that reaches into the invisible and calls the unseen into form. Jesus did not teach faith as hope. He taught faith as certainty. He taught it as the living bridge between spirit and manifestation. When he said, "If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move." He wasn't speaking in metaphors. He was giving you a mechanical formula. Faith is the force that moves mountains, internally first, then externally. But faith is more than a feeling. It is more than positive emotion. Faith is alignment with divine truth, even when appearances scream otherwise. It is standing in the middle of the storm and declaring, "I am safe." It is staring into the face of lack and affirming, "I am supplied." It is feeling pain and proclaiming, "I am whole." Not because you are deluded, but because you know that spirit is the deeper reality, and all else is just a passing shadow. Faith is the language of the soul that remembers when the mind forgets. Faith is the vibration of the kingdom, expressed through you. Without faith, your words are empty. Without faith, your affirmations collapse at the first sign of opposition. Without faith, you live as a prisoner of appearances. But with faith, even a spark of it, you become a creator instead of a reactor. You become a sower of seeds in fields that others call barren. You become a builder of bridges where others only saw canyons. You become, in truth, what you were always designed to be, a vessel of divine power in motion. Faith is not pretending that the storm isn't there. It is walking through the storm with your eyes fixed on the unseen shore. It is known that even when the surface trembles, the depths remain unshaken. And here's the secret most forget. Faith doesn't wait for evidence. Faith creates the evidence. It moves first in silence. It speaks before seeing. It gives thanks before receiving. It acts before confirmation. Because the soul aligned with divine truth knows, what is declared in spirit must eventually be seen in form. This is the very heart of Jesus' power. He didn't wait for the healing before declaring it. He didn't wait for the provision before blessing it. He didn't wait for the waters to still before stepping out. He moved from inner knowing. He spoke from completion, not from lack. And he said, "Your faith has made you whole. Not my power, not God's whim, but your faith, your personal alignment with the source that is always ready to flow through you." Understand this well. Faith is not magic. Faith is not bribery. Faith is law. It is the vibrational signal that magnetizes reality into form. When you live by faith, you are not hoping life will favor you. You are aligning with the greater current that always flows toward good. You are stepping into the unseen river that already knows the way home. But this faith must be one-pointed. It must be pure. You cannot speak of abundance by day and dwell in fear of poverty by night. You cannot declare wholeness aloud while secretly believing in brokenness. Split faith is powerless. Divided energy creates confusion, not miracles. True faith is a steady flame, not loud, not desperate, but constant. It doesn't scream, it doesn't bargain. It simply knows, and because it knows, it creates. This is the fifth key to the kingdom, the cultivation of unwavering inner certainty, not because of what you see, but because of who you are aligned with. God does not doubt himself. And when you live from your true center, neither do you. Every time you choose trust over panic, vision over fear, persistence over despair, you strengthen the muscle of faith. And every small act of faith, every whisper of trust, rebuilds the bridge between your soul and the infinite. Until one day, your inner knowing becomes louder than the world's noise, and you walk in a peace that no circumstance can steal. That is when faith becomes effortless. That is when life bends not by force but by flow. Because where there is pure faith, there is no longer a struggle. There is only creation. The mountain moves, the body heals, the provision appears, the miracle unfolds. You sided with the law that has always been there to serve you, not because you asked for it. So start over today, not by working harder but by having more faith. Declare yourself good. Walk as though you've already finished. Even if your eyes haven't seen it yet, express gratitude for what your heart knows. And observe how the invisible is revealed right before your eyes. This is faith's strength. This is the link that connects life and spirit. You already have the fifth key in your possession. Chapter 6. Love, the center of all spiritual law. Beyond all principles, beyond all laws, beyond even the creative power of faith, there is a force even greater, a current that moves the sun and the stars, a pulse that holds the entire universe together. That force is love. Not the fragile love of emotion that rises and falls with the tides of feeling. Not the possessive love born of need and fear. Not the love that clings today and abandons tomorrow. The love that anchors all spiritual law is different. It is not a sentiment, it is a substance. It is the very essence of divine being. Without love, faith collapses into pride. Without love, prayer becomes hollow words. Without love, even miracles lose their light. Love is the frequency of the kingdom itself. Love is the vibration of wholeness, of unity, of eternal truth. When Jesus was asked the greatest commandment, he didn't point to laws carved in stone. He pointed to the living law written on the heart. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. Because the true temple is not built with human hands. The true temple is the heart that has been set on fire with love. Love is the power that heals beyond medicine, rebuilds beyond logic, restores beyond hope. Where love is present, disorder dissolves. Where love is present, fear evaporates. Where love is present, the kingdom reveals itself without effort. You were created from love. You are sustained by love. And when you live in love, you are aligned with the deepest pattern of existence itself. But what is this love? It is not naive. It is not weak. It does not mean ignoring injustice. It does not mean becoming passive. True love sees clearly, but chooses unity over separation. It sees imperfection, but blesses instead of condemns. It sees wounds, but pours healing rather than judgment. To live by love is to rise above the battlefield of right and wrong, to stop playing the endless game of superiority and inferiority. It is to stand in the quiet, knowing that all souls are sparks of the one light, some awake, some asleep, but all sacred. Without love, the laws of the mind can be misused, faith can become a weapon, words can manipulate, power can corrupt, but love purifies everything it touches. It turns power into service. It turns authority into humility. It turns strength into compassion. Love is not the soft option. Love is the strongest force in existence because it alone endures. Where fear demands, love gives. Where fear judges, love understands. Where fear separates, love embraces. And here lies a secret. The more love you embody, the more easily all the other keys of the kingdom unlock for you. Because love is not just an action, it is a frequency. It is the very air of the kingdom. When you walk in love, doors open before you. When you speak in love, mountains move without struggle. When you think of love, your mind becomes a sanctuary of peace. But love must be practiced, not just toward the easy, but toward the difficult. It is easy to love those who love you. It is easy to bless the ones who bless you. But when you can love the stranger, when you can bless the enemy, when you can forgive the unforgivable, then you are walking as a true citizen of the kingdom. Because you cannot enter the higher realms carrying the baggage of hatred. You cannot drag resentment into the halls of divine peace. You must drop it. You must release it. You must rise above it, by the only power that ever truly frees: love. Love is not permission for abuse. Love is not the acceptance of injustice. Love is not blind. Love is the clear, unwavering vision that sees God even where others see only darkness. It says, I know there is more here than what the eyes can see. I know there is divinity hidden even in the brokenness. Love chooses to build rather than destroy, to lift rather than crush, to heal rather than wound. And when you live this way, you stop living according to the small identity of ego. You begin living according to your true identity, a son or daughter of the Most High, a living, breathing expression of God's eternal love. This is why love is not optional. It is not the final touch on the spiritual path, it is the path. All the powers of the kingdom, faith, prayer, word, dominion, are sustained by love. Without it, they lose their divine purpose. And so, this is the sixth key, love, fierce, pure, unwavering, the pulse of all true creation, the breath of the kingdom within you, the law that transforms worlds without lifting a sword. Where love walks, healing follows. Where love speaks, truth is heard. Where love dwells, the kingdom shines. And you, yes you, are called not just to receive this love, but to become it. Because the day you stop loving conditionally, the day you love with open hands and a fearless heart, that is the day you are no longer just visiting the kingdom. That is the day you realize you have always been home. Chapter 7. Forgiveness as Spiritual Liberation. Among all the keys to the kingdom, there is one that feels the heaviest to carry. Yet when used, it opens the widest door. That key is forgiveness. Not the kind you say out loud while still bleeding inside. Not the kind you offer through clenched teeth, with the secret hope that justice will eventually make things right. No, true forgiveness is something far deeper. It is not a gift for the other. It is the liberation of your own soul. Because every time you carry a grudge, every time you revisit the wound, every time you replay the moment of pain, you chain yourself to the past, you imprison your light, you darken your vision, you close the door to the kingdom, not because God has left you, but because you have turned away from love. Forgiveness is not a reward for the worthy. It is the release of the unworthy burden you were never meant to hold. Jesus didn't say, forgive if you feel like it. He didn't say, wait until they apologize. He said, forgive, so that you may be forgiven. Not because God withholds mercy, but because you cannot receive what you refuse to give. The blocked channel is your own, and still, we resist. We say, but they hurt me, but they betrayed me, but they don't deserve it. And maybe you're right. Maybe the pain was real. Maybe what happened shouldn't have happened. But forgiveness is not agreement. Forgiveness is not forgetfulness. Forgiveness is not pretending something didn't cut you. Forgiveness is remembering without staying broken. It is choosing peace over poison. It is removing the dagger so your wound can heal. You think holding on protects you, but it only binds you tighter to the story that keeps you small. And when you do not forgive, you are not punishing them. You are punishing yourself, again and again and again. Forgiveness is not for the other. It is for your freedom. You cannot rise and carry the weight of resentment. You cannot walk through the door of the kingdom with hatred in your heart. You cannot hold on to the fire of offense and expect to feel the warmth of divine peace. Let go. Not because they earned it, but because you are worthy of peace, because you are worthy of freedom, because you are ready to move forward. Forgiveness does not change the past, but it cleanses it. It removes its claws from your present. And in doing so, it opens your future. Even Jesus, nailed to a cross by the very ones he came to uplift, chose to say, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Do you understand the power in that? Not weakness, not submission, but the highest level of spiritual strength. Because to forgive, you must step into the mind of God. You must look through the eyes of compassion and say, I see the wound behind the wound. I see the pain behind the cruelty. I see the ignorance behind the attack. Forgiveness doesn't mean inviting the same pain again. It doesn't mean staying in toxic cycles. Sometimes the most loving act is to walk away. But you can walk away without carrying the bitterness with you. And that is the essence of this key. You don't need to condone what was done. You don't need to understand it. You don't even need to speak to the person again. But in your own soul, in your sacred silence, you must release them. Not with a whisper of vengeance but with a wave of light. Say it now if you're ready. I release you. I release myself. I choose peace. I choose healing. I choose to be free. Because the truth is, You cannot hold someone in the prison of blame without living in that prison yourself. But the moment you forgive, truly, from your heart, the doors swing open, and you realize you were never chained at all. You were simply holding the key in your hand, waiting to use it. This is the seventh key to the kingdom, and it is one of the most powerful you will ever use, not because it changes the past, but because it changes you. When you forgive, you become lighter, you become clearer, you become new. And in that moment, the kingdom shines through you again, not as a reward, but as the natural consequence of releasing the block. So forgive, not once, as many times as it takes, 70 times 7, again and again until the wound loses its voice and only light remains. You are not your pain. You are not your story. You are not what they did to you. You are a vessel of love, and you were made to walk free. Let forgiveness be your wings. Let it carry you beyond blame, beyond the past, beyond the wound, and back into the heart of God. Chapter 8. The Blessed Silence. There is a place beyond thought, beyond effort, beyond even prayer. It is not loud. It does not ask. It does not seek. It simply is. This place is called the Blessed Silence, and within it lives the voice of God. But most never hear it, not because it is far away, but because it is too close. We fill our days with noise, noise of worry, noise of information, noise of opinions, judgment, desire, and doubt. We are addicted to motion. We are afraid of stillness. Because in the stillness, we must meet ourselves. But here is the great paradox. Only in the silence does the true voice begin to speak. It doesn't come with thunder. It doesn't compete with the volume of your thoughts. It waits, patiently, behind every breath. Silence is not empty. Silence is full, full of wisdom, full of healing, full of answers you've been chasing in all the wrong places. Jesus understood this. He would often retreat from the crowds, even from his disciples, to be alone with the Father, not to speak, not to perform, but to be still and listen. Because in that holy quiet, he wasn't recharging. He was remembering. He was returning to the center. And you must do the same. You cannot know God through noise. You cannot receive divine direction in a whirlwind of mental chatter. You cannot enter the kingdom by force. You enter through the inner gate, and that gate opens in silence. Silence is the womb of creation. It is the space from which all form emerges. It is not a void. It is a source. And when you become still, you begin to touch that source, not with your hands, but with your awareness. In silence, you do not escape life. You awaken to it. You begin to see how much you've been running from your own thoughts, your own fears, your own truth. But the silence does not judge. It welcomes everything. And in its embrace, even your most chaotic thoughts begin to soften, begin to slow, begin to dissolve. You begin to notice something deeper beneath the surface tension of your mind. A gentle presence, a subtle hum, a stillness that has never left you. That is the divine. That is the voice behind the voices. That is the Christ light within, not speaking to you, but as you. And this is the eighth key, the return to silence as a sacred practice. Not the silence of the mouth, but the silence of the mind, a restful awareness, a quiet receptivity. When you enter that space, you don't need words, you don't need questions, because you're no longer seeking the answer. You are becoming it. The blessed silence is not for monks or mystics alone. It is available now, here, in the middle of your ordinary day. You don't need a cave. You don't need incense. You only need the willingness to stop, to close your eyes, and to listen, not to the world, but to your soul. Try this. Pause. Take a breath. Let the breath be your anchor to the present. And in that space between inhale and exhale, notice the stillness, notice the presence. That is the door. And the more you sit with it, the more it opens, until eventually you no longer fear silence. You crave it. You seek it not as escape, but as home. Because it is in silence that the greatest miracles are conceived. The answers you seek will not come in panic. They will not come in overthinking. They will not come in endless doing. They will come in the quiet moment when you finally stop trying and start trusting. You don't need to force the silence. You only need to make space for it. And when you do, you will discover that it was never the absence of sound. It was the presence of God. The more you practice this, the more your life will begin to shift. You'll respond with clarity instead of reaction. You'll feel guided without needing constant answers. You'll move with ease because your steps will be coming from a deeper rhythm. This is not theory. This is not wishful thinking. This is a practice as real as breath. And when you make space for this blessed silence daily, even for 5 minutes, even for 1, you begin to walk differently. Not because you know more, but because you are more aligned. So let silence be your sanctuary. Let it be the place you return to before making a decision. Let it be the space where your ego dissolves and your spirit awakens again. This is the 8th key, and it doesn't shout, it doesn't knock, it waits, patiently, behind your next breath, waiting to remind you. You were never alone. You were only surrounded by too much noise to feel the presence that never left. So stop, be still, be here, and know that in the silence you will hear the voice that has always known your name. Chapter 9. Prosperity as Divine Order. There is a law of divine abundance woven into the very fabric of the universe. It does not favor the rich or the poor. It does not respond to greed. It does not reward manipulation. It only answers to one thing: alignment. Prosperity is not a privilege. It is a reflection of harmony with divine order. Yet many suffer in lack, not because God withholds, but because we have been trained to believe in limitation. We have been told that to be spiritual is to be poor, that money is unclean, that to desire more is to be selfish. But Jesus never glorified poverty. He fed the multitudes. He multiplied the provision. He reminded us that the Father takes care of even the lilies and the sparrows. Lack is not spiritual. Scarcity is not holy. Fear of supply is not divine. The universe is not built on withholding. It is built on flow. And whenever you are cut off from that flow, it is never because God has closed the gate. It is because something in you has turned away from the stream. Prosperity is not about money alone. It is about the right relationship with life. It is the condition in which all your needs, material, emotional, spiritual, are met through divine order, without fear, without force, without guilt. It is not wealth that enslaves, it is attachment. It is not money that corrupts, it is unconsciousness. When Jesus said, "Seek first the kingdom, and all these things shall be added unto you," he wasn't asking you to renounce the world. He was telling you how to align with the law that governs all things. And that law begins within. As within, so without. As above, so below. Your outer prosperity is a reflection of your inner permission. You cannot receive what you secretly believe you do not deserve. You cannot attract what you are constantly resisting with guilt, fear, or shame. You must rewire your mind to understand God is the source of all good, not your job, not the economy, not another person. Those are channels, but the source is deeper, unchanging, eternal, and infinite. So how do you enter into divine prosperity? You begin by removing the lie that says abundance is outside of you. You begin by releasing the belief that says it is noble to suffer, that there is virtue in not having enough. You begin by understanding that you were born into an abundant universe, and the only thing that ever blocked it was the belief that it wasn't yours to receive. Say this now if it feels true in your soul. I am open to divine flow. I am a channel of God's provision. I no longer chase abundance. I align with it. Because prosperity is not pursued, it is allowed. It arrives when your thoughts, emotions, and energy match the frequency of sufficiency. When you stop grasping and start trusting. When you stop doubting and start expecting. When you stop shrinking and start receiving. Gratitude is one of the greatest keys. When you give thanks for what you already have, you multiply it. Not because God rewards good manners, but because gratitude aligns you with increase. Gratitude is the signal that says, I am ready to receive more because I already see the divine in what I have now. And giving, yes, giving is another secret doorway. Not giving to manipulate, not giving from guilt, but giving from love. Giving affirms that you are not lacking. It tells the universe, I have enough to share. And what you share multiplies. This is why Jesus said, Give, and it shall be given unto you, pressed down, shaken together, running over. This is not charity. This is the law. And when you combine love, gratitude, and trust, prosperity becomes your natural state. You no longer fear not having. You no longer cling to what you have. You live in flow. And that flow creates a field of abundance around you. Opportunities come, doors open, needs are met before you even speak them. Not because you begged, not because you schemed, but because you aligned with the current of divine order. This is the ninth key to the kingdom. It is not about riches. It is not about excess. It is about harmony. Harmony with the source of all life. Harmony with the truth that you are not here to scrape by. You are here to reflect the generosity of the universe itself. Let go of fear. Let go of shame. Let go of the belief that says abundance is for others, but not for you. You are the child of the infinite. You are the heir of divine supply. You are not here to beg for crumbs. You are here to live in the overflow. So open your hands, open your mind, open your heart, and let divine order restore the flow of good into every corner of your life. Chapter 10. The Power of Gratitude. There is a force so simple, so subtle that most overlook it, but it is one of the most transformative spiritual tools in existence. That force is gratitude. Gratitude is not a reaction. Gratitude is a spiritual technology. It is not what you feel after something good happens. It is what causes the good to appear in the first place. We've been taught that gratitude is polite, that it's proper, soft, even sentimental. But in truth, gratitude is fierce. It is a weapon against fear, a shield against lack, a bridge between you and the divine current of abundance. Gratitude doesn't just describe what is, it amplifies it, it multiplies it, it magnetizes more of it. Jesus didn't wait until the loaves had multiplied to give thanks. He looked at what seemed to be not enough and gave thanks as if it were already overflowing. And in that moment of inner alignment, reality shifted to match the frequency of faith. This is the secret. Gratitude is the voice of trust. When you give thanks for what you haven't yet seen, you declare to the universe, I know it's already done. I know the answer is on the way. I don't need to see the evidence to believe in the truth. This is not delusion. This is divine knowing, and it is one of the most powerful states you can ever dwell in. Because when you are in true gratitude, you are no longer vibrating in need. You are vibrating in reception. You have stopped chasing and started allowing. You have stopped resisting and started aligning. You no longer look at what is missing. You look at what is present, and you bless it fully. And in doing so, you open the floodgates of more, because what you recognize with joy, you keep. What you celebrate, you multiply. What you ignore, withers. And what you resent, you unconsciously push away. So if you want more peace, start giving thanks for the quiet moments you already have. If you want more love, start blessing the love that already exists in any form. If you want more provision, start noticing every small sign of supply. A meal, a kindness, a door that opened. The moment you stop saying not enough and begin to whisper, thank you, you become a magnet for divine increase. But gratitude must be practiced, especially in the moments when it feels hardest. It's easy to be grateful when everything flows, but the power of gratitude lies in using it when life is dry, when the account is low, when the news is bad, when the healing hasn't yet come. That is when gratitude becomes faith embodied. That is when it moves mountains. Say it aloud if you feel it in your spirit. I am thankful now, not later, not when it shows up, not when it's finished, but now. Because God is here now, and divine order is unfolding even if I cannot see it yet. This is the posture of a true master. This is the vibration of the kingdom. This is the 10th key. And it is always within reach, because you don't need to wait for anything to practice it. You can begin this very second. Pause. Take a breath. Look around. Look within. And whisper, "Thank you. Thank you for the breath. Thank you for the awareness. Thank you for the light that still burns even in the darkness." Gratitude is not passive. It is a decision, a declaration, a shift in state, and it changes everything. It changes how you see. It changes what you notice. It changes the signals you send out into the invisible field that shapes all things. Because the universe is listening, and it does not respond to desperation, it responds to resonance. So live in gratitude. Speak from gratitude. Pray from gratitude. Let it become your inner atmosphere. Let it become your way of walking, of breathing, of perceiving. And you will find, slowly, gently, powerfully, that even the smallest thank you, whispered in sincerity, has the power to reshape your entire life. Not because life changed first, but because you did. This is the path. This is the power. This is the key. Gratitude is not what comes after the blessing. Gratitude is a blessing. Gratitude activates the blessing. Gratitude unlocks the flow of the kingdom. And the moment you begin to live this way, you will no longer be waiting for miracles. You will be living inside them. Chapter 11. Do not judge, the path of no conflict. There is a quiet poison that clouds the heart, blinds the vision, and disconnects you from divine clarity. That poison is judgment, not discernment, not wisdom, but the reflex to label, to condemn, to divide. And yet Jesus said it plainly, "Judge not, that you be not judged." He didn't say it as a suggestion, he said it as a law, because that's exactly what it is. Every time you judge, you bind yourself. Every time you condemn, you block the flow of grace. Why? Because you cannot judge another without shrinking your own soul. You cannot cast shame without breathing in its residue. You cannot hold someone down in your mind without lowering your own vibration to match. Judgment is a mirror. Every thought you send out returns to you. When you judge, you are choosing to look with the eyes of separation instead of the eyes of spirit. You are saying, "I know better." You are forgetting that behind every action, however distorted, there is a story, a soul, a lesson, a pain you may never understand. This is not about denying the truth. This is not about ignoring evil. It is about realizing that your first responsibility is the atmosphere of your own consciousness, and judgment pollutes it. It interrupts the current of peace. It tightens the channel of wisdom. It causes you to vibrate in conflict, fear, and false superiority. And from that place, you lose access to the kingdom, because the kingdom cannot be seen with a judging eye. It is only revealed through the vision of oneness. Jesus understood this. That's why he was so radical. He ate with the outcasts. He healed those called unclean. He elevated the overlooked, because he didn't see people as labels. He saw light within them, whether that light was burning or buried, and he called us to do the same. Judgment is the mind's addiction to control. Love is the soul's surrender to truth. To walk in divine power, you must let go of the need to judge. And that includes how you judge yourself. How often do you replay your mistakes, condemn your past, call yourself names in silence? You cannot call yourself unworthy and expect to live in wholeness. You cannot speak harshly to your own soul and feel the voice of God clearly. Self-judgment is just as toxic because it creates walls around your inner sanctuary. So what do you do instead? You shift. You step out of reaction and into perception. You ask, what is this teaching me? Where is the light hiding in this? What would love do here? You trade condemnation for compassion. You look beneath the surface. You choose to see as God sees. And when you do, everything changes. The person who once triggered you, you suddenly feel their pain. The wound that once made you bitter, you now recognize your teacher. The voice that once attacked, you now hear it as a cry for love. This is not weakness, this is mastery, because it's easy to judge, it takes no effort to condemn, but to see with the eyes of spirit. That takes discipline, that takes presence, that takes a heart aligned with divine truth. The moment you stop judging, you begin healing, not just the other, but yourself. Because judgment is separation, and love is reunion. You don't need to agree with everyone. You don't need to tolerate everything. But you must choose your inner response wisely, because your reaction is your vibration, and your vibration creates your experience. The world is noisy. It tells you who's right, who's wrong, who to trust and who to hate. But Spirit whispers differently. Look deeper. See through the mask. Hold the space. Extend grace. This is not passive. This is power, because when you refuse to judge, you refuse to enter the battlefield of conflict. You become untouchable by chaos. You radiate peace even in disorder. You stand like a mountain, unmoved, steady, aware. This is what Jesus meant when he said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God." Not those who are neutral, not those who avoid truth, but those who bring a higher consciousness into moments of division. And that begins with one choice: to release judgment of others, of yourself, of the world, and return to the place of divine vision. This is the 11th key. And when you hold it, you free yourself. You return to the center. You restore the channel. You walk in peace. Because you've remembered, the eyes of God do not judge, they illuminate, and now so do yours. Chapter 12. Seek first the kingdom. There is a line, just one line, that unlocks the entire secret to life. Seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Not some things, not spiritual things alone, all things: peace, provision, healing, purpose, clarity. Every desire of the heart, added not by effort, not by struggle, but by alignment. But the first part, that's the key. Seek first the kingdom, not second. Not when life calms down, not once you solve the outer chaos. First, because everything you are seeking out there is already encoded within. You seek abundance, but the kingdom is an infinite supply. You seek healing, but the kingdom is wholeness itself. You seek love, but the kingdom is pure divine connection. You're not trying to attract your good. You're trying to remember where it's always been, inside the divine order of your being. But most people do the opposite. They seek first a job, the solution, the relationship, the security, the applause, the proof. And then they wonder why the peace doesn't last, why the answers feel fragile, why the ground under their feet keeps shifting. It's because they're building their life upside down. Outer things were never meant to lead. The inner truth was always meant to be the foundation. When you seek the kingdom first, you stop asking the world to validate you. You stop chasing what was never meant to complete you. Instead, you go inward. You go upward, you go home. What is the kingdom? It is not a place. It is a state of consciousness, a state where you know who you are, who are you, and where your power truly comes from. It's the awareness that you are not separate from your source, that you are not waiting for good to arrive. You are the living portal through which good flows. Seeking the kingdom means tuning your heart to truth before you take a step. It means aligning your thoughts with love before you make a choice. It means checking in with spirit before you respond to life. This doesn't make you passive, it makes you powerful. Because you are no longer reacting to the world, you are creating from your center. Jesus didn't operate from ego. He didn't seek to prove himself. He didn't move from fear or ambition. He moved from the kingdom, always. And because of that, the outer followed the inner. The sick were healed, the hungry were fed, the lost were restored. The kingdom within him shaped the world around him. And he said, "The kingdom of God is within you." So this instruction, seek first the kingdom, is not just spiritual poetry. It's a map, a pattern, a divine order of priorities. And when you follow it, everything else falls into place. The problem is not that you're asking for too much. It's that you're looking in the wrong direction. Turn inward. Ask first, What is the truth here? What is love asking of me now? What would Spirit do through me in this moment? When you seek the kingdom first, you don't beg for peace, you become peaceful. Clarity is not what you hope for. You tune into the frequency that is already inhabited by clarity. You don't ask for authority. Knowing that the universe unfolds precisely, you are in harmony with divine timing. Being flawless is not the point here. It all comes down to orientation. It's about following Spirit's lead and allowing the others to follow. Without ever recognizing it, a great number of people attempt to add things to themselves throughout their lives while ignoring the one factor that makes everything else flow. They chase blessings, but forget the source of blessing is already inside them. And yet, when you seek the kingdom first, you become magnetic. The right people come, the ideas arrive, the doors open, not because you chased them, but because your energy became clear, focused, and aligned with the deepest truth. This is not a reward. This is the law. Seek first the kingdom, and all else unfolds by divine design. So today, pause. Ask yourself, what have I been seeking? What have I been putting first? What would change if I reversed the order and chose Spirit first? This is not a sacrifice, this is wisdom. Because when you seek first the kingdom, you are not giving something up. You are returning to what was always meant to come first. Your connection to the divine, your alignment with truth, your surrender to love. And when that is in place, all else is added. Not by force, not by chance, but by grace. This is the 12th key. Simple, direct, unshakable. Seek first the kingdom, and let your life be shaped from the inside out. Chapter 13. The Law of Cause and Effect. There is no chaos in the universe. There is no randomness, no accidents, no unseen dice being thrown by the hands of fate. There is only the law. And one of the most unbreakable of all spiritual laws is this: the law of cause and effect. Every thought is a cause. Every belief is a blueprint. Every word, every feeling, every action you express into the world creates a ripple, and that ripple becomes your life. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the author of them. Not always with conscious intention, but always through vibration. The life you are living now is not being done to you. It is being created through you. What you sow in consciousness, you reap in form. What you nourish with thought grows in experience. This is not superstition. This is the very foundation of spiritual reality. Jesus taught it again and again. By their fruits you shall know them. Give, and it shall be given unto you. As you believe, so shall it be done unto you. These are not poetic metaphors. They are spiritual mechanics. They reveal that every visible outcome has an invisible beginning. You cannot plant seeds of fear and expect to harvest peace. You cannot fill your thoughts with doubt and expect to walk in confidence. You cannot judge, complain, criticize, and expect your life to shine with joy. The law is not personal. It does not punish, it does not reward. It reflects, it mirrors, it responds. And when you understand this, you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you begin to ask, what thought, what belief, what energy has been feeding this experience? This is not about blame, it is about power, because once you see the law, you can begin to work with it. If your mind has created your current reality, then your mind can create something new. The law of cause and effect is not here to trap you, it is here to free you if you're willing to take responsibility. Responsibility is not guilt, it is the sacred recognition that you are a creator, even in the places that feel stuck, even in the stories that seem inherited, even in the wounds that seem to repeat themselves. You are never without influence. You are never without choice. The moment you change the inner cause, the outer effect must eventually shift to match it. You may not see it instantly, just like the seed doesn't bloom the day it's planted. But once the new cause has been set into motion, the law goes to work, silently, precisely, faithfully. That's why Jesus always went to the root of the matter. He didn't just heal bodies, he healed beliefs. He didn't just change outcomes, he transformed the inner condition that had caused them. He knew that real transformation does not begin on the surface. It begins in the secret place, the soil of thought, the ground of intention. So what have you been planting there? Take a moment. Be honest, without guilt, without shame, just clarity. Have your thoughts been rooted in love or fear, in trust or control, in truth or illusion? Because the law will magnify whatever is most dominant in you. Not your passing thoughts, not your wishful thinking, but the patterns you live in, the beliefs you nurture, the frequencies you repeat day after day. And this is the good news. The moment you shift the pattern, the effect must shift too. This is why forgiveness works. It cuts the karmic thread. It clears the field of resentment, so new seeds can grow. This is why gratitude works. It magnetizes joy and provision. It says to the law, I am aligned with good. Give me more of this. This is why focused prayer works. Not because God changes, but because you change. And your vibration rises to meet the next level of blessing. The law of cause and effect is not a threat. It is a gift. It is the guarantee that nothing you do in love is ever wasted, that every new thought matters, that every act of kindness reshapes the field, that every moment of truth-telling heals more than just you. This is the 13th key, and it comes with great clarity. Whatever you sow, you shall reap. So start sowing differently. Start sowing with intention, with love, with faith, with trust in the invisible systems that surround you. Stop reacting. Start creating. Speak differently. Think differently. Believe differently. And in time, your world will begin to reflect what has always been true in spirit, that you are not here to suffer the effects endlessly. You are here to become a conscious cause, a vessel of divine intent. The law is already working. The question is, will you now work with it? Because once you do, life stops feeling random. The mystery becomes order, and the unseen becomes sacred again. You are not a victim. You are a creator, and the law is on your side. Chapter 14, The Christ Within. There is a light within you, a flame not born of flesh, not shaped by the world, and not limited by time. That light is the Christ within, not a man, not a historical figure alone, but a state of consciousness, the divine pattern of wholeness seeded in every soul. Christ is not exclusive to one being. It is the blueprint of your original nature. The spark of God was placed inside you before you ever drew breath. Jesus came not to monopolize the Christ, but to awaken it in others. The kingdom of God is within you. You are the light of the world. These were not metaphors. They were revelations. They were reminders. You were never just flesh and bone. You were never merely a personality or a name. Beneath your roles, beyond your fears, past your trauma, there is a divine identity untouched by the world. That identity is the Christ. It is the part of you that knows without thinking, loves without effort, heals without struggle, and speaks from eternal truth. Jesus was the perfect demonstration of this inner Christ, not to be worshipped as unreachable, but to be mirrored. He came not to say, I am the only one, but to say, what I am, you also are, if you awaken to it. This is why he said, the works I do you shall do also, and greater works than these shall you do. Because the power wasn't meant to stop with him, it was meant to continue through you. But for that to happen, you must awaken, not with effort, but with remembrance. You must silence the lesser voice, the one that tells you you're small, broken, limited. You must rise above the old self-image built by wounds and repetition, and you must step into the truth of what God planted in you from the beginning. Christ is not something you earn. It is something you reclaim. It is the still voice that knows when you forget. It is the healing hand that reaches out when your mind hesitates. It is the love that remains steady, even when your emotions shake. It is not added to you through devotion. It is revealed when the false self falls away. That is why spiritual growth is not accumulation. It is unveiling, peeling back layers of fear, pride, and separation, until only the divine remains. Let this mind be in you which was also in Christ Jesus. Paul wrote those words not as an idea, but as a call to awaken. The Christ within you does not panic, it does not blame, it does not attack or defend. It simply knows and acts from love. And every time you choose love over fear, truth over illusion, forgiveness over resentment, you activate the Christ. You may not feel holy, you may not feel worthy, but the Christ within you is not based on feelings. It is based on truth. And truth does not require permission to shine. It only requires recognition. Christ is not a far-off goal. It is the deepest reality of your being, a sacred fire, waiting for you to stop dimming it. So, stop looking outside for your authority. Stop waiting for someone to tell you you're enough. Look within, return home, and remember, the one you've been searching for, it is already within you, not as potential, but as presence. This is not arrogance, this is not ego, this is humility of the highest kind. To bow before the divine light within you and say, I am ready now, I remember who I am. This is the 14th key, and it is the most sacred awakening of all. To know that the very nature of God was not placed in temples, but in you. And when you live from that place, you do not need to prove. You do not need to compete. You do not need to convince. You simply radiate. You walk into the room and the atmosphere shifts, not because of your personality, but because of your presence. This is what Jesus meant when he said, You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. And so you are, but not because you try, because you finally allow the Christ within you to emerge. Let that be your prayer. Let that be your practice. Let that be your new self-image. No longer limited, no longer small, no longer asleep, but awake, radiant, living from the divine identity that was never lost, only hidden. Christ is not coming from the clouds. It is rising in your consciousness, and the more you honor it, the more your life becomes a sacred vessel of its light. You are not here to imitate Jesus. You are here to embody the same awareness he lived in, and that awareness is not reserved for saints and mystics. It is your inheritance. The Christ within you is the real you. And now, it is time to rise. Chapter 15. The New Birth, Reawakening the Soul. There comes a moment on every true spiritual path, a sacred threshold, not marked by thunder, not announced by angels, but known in the quiet of your being. It is the moment when something ancient stirs, and you no longer live as who you were. This moment is called the new birth, not birth into a religion, not into a belief system, but birth into the truth of who you have always been, a return, a rising, a remembering so deep, it feels like awakening from a long and restless sleep. Jesus called it being born again, not because the first birth was wrong, but because the second birth reveals what the first one forgot. You were born into a world of form, of noise, of ego, of illusion. You were taught limits. You were taught names, labels, and fears. You were told who you were before you could hear who you are. And so, you fell asleep. You forgot your origin. You dimmed your light. You followed the scripts handed to you by a world equally asleep, but the soul cannot remain silent forever. There comes a moment when the illusion begins to crack, and light pours in. A divine discontent begins to grow. Not depression, not despair, but a holy ache, a longing to remember, a yearning to return, a hunger to live not just for the world, but from the spirit. And when you answer that hunger, when you begin to look inward, when you stop chasing and start listening, the new birth begins, not with fireworks, but with surrender, not by doing more, but by letting go of the false self, the one who tried to earn love, the one who chased approval, the one who feared silence. The new birth is not about becoming someone better, it is about becoming real. Unless a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. Jesus wasn't talking about the afterlife, he was talking about this life now. The kingdom is not for the outer self, it is for the awakened soul, and you cannot carry ego through its gates. The new birth is the moment you drop the mask, and you meet your own soul for the first time, unarmored, unfiltered, undeniably free. It is the end of pretending, the end of striving, the end of seeking outside what only exists within. It is the beginning of truth. Truth that whispers, "You were never lost, only distracted. You were never broken, only buried. You were never unworthy, only unaware." And now, you see, the clouds part, the noise fades, and in the stillness you are reborn, not with a new name, not with a new identity, but with a new awareness that the life of God lives in you, that Christ has always been within, that the kingdom is not a destination, but the place you stand when you are fully present, fully surrendered, fully awake. This is not something to wait for. This is not something someone else can give you. This is your own soul's blooming. This is your eternal light rising from within. The new birth is not an event, it is becoming. It is when love replaces fear, peace replaces anxiety, truth replaces conditioning. And from that space, you no longer live for yourself alone. You become a vessel. You become a light. You become a voice for something greater than your story. You begin to live for the whole. And this, dear soul, is the final key. Not a key to unlock something new, but a key to return to what was always there. To be reborn is to say yes. Yes to the light. Yes to the silence. Yes to the power. Yes to the love. Yes to the kingdom. And then to live from that, yes, fully, openly, courageously. So now, you are no longer the seeker. You are no longer the wanderer. You are no longer the dreamer waiting for the sign. You are the awakened one, the reborn soul, the Christ-conscious being who now walks in truth. You are the one the world has been waiting for. And now, you remember, you were never separate. You were never powerless. You were never alone. And as you rise, as you walk, as you breathe this new life, the world begins to shift around you. Because when one soul is reborn, light increases for all. This is the final key, the reawakening, the true beginning. Welcome back to yourself. Welcome home to the kingdom. Welcome to life everlasting. If this stirred something in you, a memory, a knowing, a quiet yes, then you're exactly where you're meant to be. Subscribe to the Middle Book and walk with us. Each video is a key, each word a step home, and the journey has only just begun. Welcome back.